come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Wook. As I look at my buddy over there, he is sleeping underneath my desk with Kara right nose to nose with him, so it's pretty much of a sweet scene. That is not what we're witnessing, however, in the news, is it, Kevin?
No, it is not at all. Not at all.
So welcome, world, to the Vlog on the Vlog. This is our continuation of On the Daily series as we broadcast from the Virgin Islands at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time or Atlantic Time, as they are coinciding at this point. We received news that Trump had surrendered vis-a-vis Iran. And while that might have been good for some people's speculation that it would end the war, America is really not in a position where it can take another brutal loss. And of course, the moment that Trump started this war, Kevin, we knew that it was going to be a loss. There was no way out of it. It's why you looked at Israel and said, how can you be smart people and continue to trip on your own feet? You just continue to do everything wrong. There was zero chance of a benefit in attacking Iran. And we knew that. And I said so, and have said so for years now, that there is no chance that you're going to get regime change in Iran. There aren't enough Iranians that are rallying for it. Many of those who are rallying for it are being bribed by the CIA and the Mossad, so they're fake on top of that. You need at least 3 to 5% to instigate regime change, and they didn't even have a fraction of 1% that were protesting for it.
Right.
And to have a minority be able to impose their will on the majority, the only way that happens is if you're dealing with brown shirts in Nazi Germany or the Bolsheviks in Russia, where those who are part of that minority are vicious and fanatic. And the protesters in Iran weren't either.
Right.
And so now
you
have
do
to
it
have
with kitchen knives.
No, and they didn't even have kitchen knives, so that was an impossibility. You have to have either a significant majority support you, or you have to have the minority has to be vastly more vicious and better armed than the majority. And in this case, Iran, neither of those things were present. First, if you're third now, if you're going to have a successful regime change, looking at what's happened throughout history, you not only have to have either a very vicious minority or a large majority, neither of which appeared in Iran, but you have to have a go-to. It isn't sufficient ever in regime change to say, well, we have protests and they don't like the present government. That is never enough. You have to have the participants rallying towards something. And in Iran, they had nothing to rally towards. They could say, well, no, we don't like the theocratic government, but what were they advocating?
Right.
And it certainly wasn't going back to the monarchy. So what were they trying to install in its place? And if there was nothing to rally to, then it doesn't even matter what conditions exist on the other two parameters. You aren't going to get regime change. And so the best you can hope for is if you oust by some means the existing regime, as happened with the United States and the CIA conniving in Ukraine because they wanted Ukraine to work as a proxy, as cannon fodder to go attack Russians because the elite in America wanted to slice up Russia and steal the natural assets and resources. So the same thing was true with Libya when Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed banking system and trade exchange network that would have replaced the petrodollar and liberated Africa from the control of America and from the control of Europe, which is part of that U.S. SWIFT petrodollar reserve currency situation, which puts America in control and a weaponized currency control of every other economy. So the moment they want to move out of any independence or do business with anyone else, they are threatened and destroyed economically. And so Muammar Gaddafi had the answer. He had enough money with oil to propose a gold-backed currency. And so America crushed him. Nigeria announced that it wanted also independence. And that's when Trump said, we're going to go after the anti-Christian forces. And he didn't even mention Boko Haram, but we're going to go after the anti-Christian. I'm going to stand up for Christians in Nigeria.
Right.
Bull. The Nigerians were proposing independence, and the United States won't tolerate that. Russia and China have proposed independence, and so the powers that be in America and in Europe are vicious in that regard. And so it's quite a mess.
They can't attack Russia overtly. They can't attack China overtly. So let's deal with the people. They're friends. We'll attack Venezuela. We'll attack Iran, Cuba.
Yes. So my point was going to be, in terms of regime change, what happened in Libya when the United States crushed Muammar Gaddafi for wanting financial independence?
Oh, it's an absolute mess. It was a complete power vacuum, and there's the
number one economy in Libya now? Selling women as sex slaves. Wow. So look at the mess we made. And the United States never owns up to the mess it makes. Look at the mess we made in Ukraine. There's 2 million people dead for nothing.
Yeah.
And we won't even own up to the fact that we created that mess. Look what happened in Afghanistan. The Northern Alliance was better than the Taliban, and the Northern Alliance controlled most of Afghanistan. And then the United States goes in, we muck everything up, and now the entire country is controlled by the Taliban. And we don't even own up to our disaster. We go into Iraq on false premises, and weapons of mass destruction and harboring terrorists, neither one are true. We break the country, and what we did is we gave the country to Iran.
Thank you, Ayatollahs, they say.
And in the process, we create the Islamic State. The Islamic State is an outgrowth of Bush's and General Petraeus' awakening program. So we created the Islamic State to replace Al-Qaeda. And we destroy Iraq and Syria, and we give Iraq to Iran, and we gave Syria to Turkey. Every time we try this regime change game, which was what Israel and America were attempting, if you're not smart enough to recognize that the CIA has tried this 100 times since the end of the last World War without a single success and with many colossal failures, then you're just too ignorant to speak out on this issue. We knew, and we spoke out and said, this is a horrible idea. It will not work. And it's being falsely portrayed. There aren't tens of thousands of Persians that are being gunned down by their government because they're holding peaceful protests. It was the Mossad and the CIA that were arming protesters, and there were maybe 3,000 or 4,000 that lost their lives, not the 40,000 that we used to justify, Trump used, and Israel used to justify their bombing of Iran. It was an absolute bold-faced lie, and people are so gullible today, they believe it. And so we knew that there was no chance of regime change. And we also knew that while Iran would have no reason to have any uranium enriched beyond 3 to 4% for a nuclear power plant, and actually Iraq and Iran have no business with a nuclear power plant. There's nothing that they can do with it that's of any value to them, because all a nuclear power plant does is it considerable technological prowess. It boils water.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a country like Iran and you're sitting on enormous quantities of hydrocarbons, there's a much cheaper way to boil water, essentially free.
Yeah.
And so there was no chance that they were.
Maybe they're curing cancer. Maybe they're curing cancer. We don't know, right?
Okay. Yeah. So scientific research requires a thimble of enriched uranium, not
Tons.
1,000 or 2,000 pounds of enriched uranium. And that's just the part that we know is already at or above 60%. We don't even know how much they have all total at various levels. They mine it, and they've been mining it for a long time, and they've been enriching it for a long time. And they have at least 40 distributed centrifuge sites to enrich it. So we don't even know how much they have. When America says, they're going to give up all of their uranium. No, they're not going to give up the uranium. If they're not going to have suffered 2 decades of economic sanctions to say, oh, yeah, no big deal, we'll just give it up. Not a prayer. And so there was no way to get them to give it up. And if Israel and America had not attacked them, not once, but twice, we could be reasonably assured that Iran was not going to finish their bomb. They would be in a position where they could, but they'd gone 2 decades without having done so. And if they'd gone 2 decades without having done so with a national religious edict not to do so, then leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
To attack them under the basis that you're going to stop their program is counterproductive. Just as regime change was counterproductive, that's counterproductive, because all you're going to do is assure that they do develop their nuclear bomb, because they need a deterrence from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have done. And now, after a second attack on Iran and having 30 days of ceasefire, and now proposing another 60 days, there's a 0% possibility that Iran won't have a nuclear warhead, or multiples of them. And they also got missiles and warheads from North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Iran could give you 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium to 60% and still have 20 bombs.
Right.
And you've given them every incentive to finish them, and they already had the missile technology to deliver them. And the sites that do this are distributed amongst like 40 different places across Iran, and they're all buried underground, and you would have no way to stop them, monitor them, or retrieve it. So this was an impossibility. And when you pursue impossible war goals, all you do is start wars that you can't finish.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the midst of this, the Iranians shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And they're not going to relinquish their control over the Strait of Hormuz under a status quo basis. So there was no winning. And the United States had already committed all manner of war crimes. How many more does America have to commit before finally you say, this is really hideously immoral, what we're doing? I'm no fan of an Islamic theocracy, but good grief, that Fetterman quote at the top, it says, the majority of members of the Democratic Party are actually rooting for Iran in this war. That's treason. And I'd say, no, it's not treason. Doing what you're doing, which is supporting Trump in a vicious war where he attacked and killed 90% civilians and put America and the world in a horrible position that cannot be won. supporting that which you're doing in your hoodie there,
Congressman, yes.
Senator,
Same.
that's treason.
Mhm.
That's treason. Yeah, it's not treason to root for the demise of that scheme. It's treason to support that scheme.
Yeah. And
So
it's not like they're for Iran either. I mean, they're just against anything Trump does. You know, I'm sure that if Kamala had the White House, that there would be some sort of Iran craziness going on as well. Not to this extent by
Yeah.
any means, sure, but
well, it's Biden was the last bullet to destroy the Nord Stream pipeline and to put Russia in a position where it had no choice but to defend itself. So Biden was definitely a warmonger. Wouldn't want to defend him on any stretch of the imagination. And whether or not it was Biden that was the warmonger or those that were managing him because he was comatose, I can't tell you, but he was definitely a warmonger. And if you go back on the Ukrainian proxy war against Russia, you go back through Trump 1 was a horrendous contributor to this immoral ruse. Obama was horrible in it. And it goes all the way back to Bush. Bush set it all up, and the other presidents just played it all out as if they were playing the cards of the military-industrial complex,
right.
and bankers to make money on the blood of others. It was an abortion, an abomination. Now, as it relates to Iran, nothing is going to stop Iran from being among nuclear countries, because no country is going to allow you to continue to bomb them indiscriminately without being able to protect itself. And so what you have done is assure that they become a nuclear country. Now, the reason this matters to us isn't because of the demise for the United States. That's inevitable. We know that's going to happen. And the United States put itself in in a position where its demise is assured through this malfeasance of Donald Trump, because it eliminated its presence from the Middle East and extricated support for the petrodollar system, which was the last hope that America had of creating the illusion that it was solvent as a country. And now all it can do is continue to debase its currency, because no one will buy bonds. So it's just devalue the currency and use the control over the Federal Reserve to create the illusion of money to buy the debt that nobody in their right mind would purchase. All the while, the value of your currency and the value of your assets dwindles to nothing. We knew that was the case, and of course that'll take down the rest of the world economically as well. Even China and Russia, which have much more substantial manufacturing capability, can't survive that, because they have to export products to keep their factories running, and there will be no one to export to when the West collapses, which is now inevitable. And that's the anarchy of the time of troubles, and we knew that. The reason we're talking about it at great length now is that Trump made an announcement over the weekend that he says that he had two, one over the weekend and one today. And I want to talk to both of them. The first one is that he announced that he had reached an agreement with Iran, and that he had gone over that agreement with all of the Muslim nations, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, and the like, and Pakistan, the field marshal or the general that runs Pakistan. And he had gone over it with all of them, and that the agreement had wonderful reception among them, and that he had told Bibi and pretended like he had a wonderful conversation with Bibi Netanyahu. So that's where we were. And he was not fessing up on what it was that was agreed to, other than he said that the Strait of Hormuz would be open And he said that there would be monies released, a minimum of 25 billion released to the Iranians, and that the overall situation relative to the nuclear program of Iran was tabled for 60 days.
Right.
That's what came out of the White House. So subsequently, Trump decided that he didn't like the fact that he was being mocked for this deal. And so he said, nobody knows what the deal is, but it's a great deal. But I haven't told anybody what the deal is. So if you haven't told anybody what the deal is, why'd you have any phone conversation? What were you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
your favorite color of cotton candy? I mean, what were you talking about if there was no deal? If nobody knows the terms of the deal except you, then you don't have a deal.
Right.
All right. So there were 3 sources that released the terms of that deal. And one of them was in Saudi Arabia, where the state-run news agency released the terms of that deal. And the terms of the deal were that the Strait of Hormuz would open, but under Iranian control. That the United States would release $25 billion to Iran. That the nuclear discussion, the nuclear, they're talking about a $1 charge per barrel of oil, which is, of course, 1% of the value of that oil as their toll to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It takes a lot of damn $1 bills to up to 25 billion. So, you're going to say, all right, the strait stays in Iranian control, but there's no tolls, but we're giving you 25 billion up front. That's better than what the Iranians were originally proposing. So the Iranians are going to be delighted with that. There's no problem with that. That the second was that the U.S. presence, military presence, would remain only until the deal was officially ratified, which means the U.S. is committing to moving out of the Middle East, which is what the Iranians have wanted. And that the nuclear discussions had been tabled and were not part of this deal. That was released. What that is bold-faced surrender. That is the white flag that Trump has been talking about waving. That's the white flag. That is the United States saying, we can't go off and bomb Iran again because we made no difference and we're killing people. We're committing war crimes. We're squandering our military assets and accomplishing nothing in the process. And that against a country that large with 93 million people that is essentially impenetrable to men on foot in an invasion, and that has buried everything that's essential to it beneath the reach of our bunker buster bombs. There's just no point,
right,
to bombing them again. The military doesn't want to bomb them again. They fired every top general. Says, you're wasting your time and putting us at risk. The blockade was not working because any ship that hugged the Iranian coast couldn't be touched by the Americans because they couldn't put their warships within missile range of the Iranian coast. And so the U.S. was just being mocked from every possible angle, and the Strait of Hormuz was essentially closed to anybody but China and Iran. And the devastation of that, both in fertilizer and food production and in energy prices and world economy, is catastrophic.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things.
Go ahead.
One of the biggest things in my mind was this end of regional conflict across all fronts, including Lebanon. There is no way that Israel was going to agree to that, because they have to go. Well, they don't have to, but they want to go in and continue to harass Hezbollah. Keep their heads down.
One of the terms of the deal is that had to be the end of Israel's war in Lebanon. Now, Israel's war in Lebanon is like every other Israeli war in Lebanon. It serves no purpose. It's like the Americans in Vietnam and Hamburger Hill. You lose a lot of men and material, charging up hills that are manned by warriors in bunkers, and they kill a lot of your people. And then you claim the hill, and then you abandon the hill. And Israel is, just like America in the Vietnam War, was great at that. It's terrible for morale. It's terrible for the lives of those in your military, and it accomplishes nothing. And Israel's played that game in Lebanon for a long time now. And the world's opinion after Gaza is they're trying to turn Lebanon into Gaza, and the world's not buying it. It is not working for them. And when they claim that they had done a decapitation strike on Hezbollah a year ago, and then go back in and find that, well, no, that's not true at all, that there is capable and is well armed and as many Hezbollah as ever before.
Right.
So it turned out to be a complete lie. It's like the dumpster there claiming absolutely obliterated all of their nuclear capability, and he didn't even make a dent in it. And then you have to go back, and when you go back, you still can't make a dent in it because there's just no way to deal with it. And
there
then
is always another Muslim wanting to pick up that sword. Always another Muslim waiting to pick up.
Because it's, for them, it's martyrdom. It's direct admission to Allah's brothel. That's why Israel couldn't defeat Hamas in Gaza. You know, they destroyed Gaza, but not Hamas. Great. And all that did is destroy Israel. So under these circumstances, Trump capitulated. He said, okay, I can't beat them militarily. No one's buying my threats that I'm going to annihilate them anymore. The military can't invade. You can't win from the air. I got no options whatsoever, and we need the strait to be opened, and I need to pull out. So what's the only way to pull out the military and get the strait open? Surrender and give Iran a lot of money and claim that you negotiated a great deal. That's what he was doing. So I just posted it as, Trump surrenders. That's fine with me. I have no problem with America surrendering. I'm not an American. And so it doesn't bother me at all. But that's the reality of it, is America lost another war. However, that's not the end of it, is it?
No, not at all.
We are now a few days into the time of Israel's troubles. It started on Shabuah, Friday evening of this past week. It's a 7-year, 4-month period where things are going to go worse for Israel than any time in the nation's history. And so we knew that Israel is going to be put in a very horrible position, and we knew that Donald Trump was the great betrayer. He is Satan incarnate, and we've made that announcement and made it clearly known and done well over 100 programs denouncing him as Satan. And we knew that because of what the prophets had said, that he would betray Israel, and that his betrayal would include offering a fake Palestinian state, handing the heart of Israel to the Muslims on a silver platter, while he promises to protect Israel and gets benefit from Israel by the Arab nations, they'll just love you, and they'll all sign a deals with you. Yeah, I'll have a deal with all of them. They'll all sign a deal with you. Your security will be assured, and not to worry that you're giving up your heart to the very terrorists that want to annihilate you. Don't worry, we have your back. That's what he's going to promise. We knew that. And we knew that it would happen very close to the beginning of the time of trouble. And here we got it, gift wrapped this morning. Donald Trump said, "This is the truth. Here on Truth, I'm telling you the truth, that all parties that are signatories of my great peace deal between the United States and Iran are going to sign, and by mandatory requirement, and participate in the Abraham Accords. Turkey, Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Hmm. What is the common denominator among those countries and what they would require if even entertaining the Abraham Accords?
They want a Palestinian state with its capital in
Hmm.
eastern Jerusalem.
Hmm. They do, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And they want it to be an independent state, which means they
Mm-hmm.
can have a military.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely and totally controlled by them. And they want Gaza and what they would call the West Bank contiguous, don't they?
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Which
was.
cuts Israel right in half and narrows Israel to a matter of a few miles, where 70% of the population lives with um, their heart cut out and that country severed in two. That and they will say, "Oh, but it won't be headed by Hamas." Well, so you're going to give it to the Palestinian Authority? They're the PLO. They're the
Mm-hmm.
people that pulled off the fraud of there being a Palestinian people.
Right.
That's their fraud. They're the ones that pulled off the intifadas. They're the ones who have used terrorism around the world to promote their cause. They killed Robert Kennedy. They perpetrated the horrible attack on Jews and the Munich Olympics. They're the ones that have been terrorizing Israel from all manner of hideous attacks since the mid 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
So that is your answer. And by the way, they are so unpopular. They have not had an election in 2 decades. So that's your answer. You're going to take people that haven't had an election in 2 decades, that is a terrorist organization, and you're going to say, well, no, they'll run the Palestinian state. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
their primary financial mechanism is pay for slay, paying Muslims to kill Jews, rewarding their families if they go off and kill Jews. And by the way, they are so unpopular that less than 20% of Muslims support them, and 80% support the more vicious of the Islamic institutions and Hamas, which is what
Mm-hmm.
happened in Gaza. So you're going to have Hamas running a Islamic state carved out of the heart of Israel, making Israel indefensible, and the next Alaska flood is going to come from the inside, not the outside. That's what
Yeah.
they want, and you don't give them that, then you got nothing. And so, as Neville Chamberlain, as we have cast Trump for the last 2 years as the next Neville Chamberlain, does he care that he's going to tell Israel to give up things that he doesn't control? No, he's not going to be a problem with
No.
them. And
No skin
and
off
does
his
he
nose.
believe his own promises that he's going to protect Israel? Maybe.
No.
He's a confabulator. He believes all manner of things that aren't true.
Mm-hmm.
Does he believe that the Arabs are telling him the truth? Oh yeah, that we really we promise Israel's security, and we'll all get along great, and we'll do business together, and bygones will be bygones, and we won't be Muslims anymore, and we'll ignore what the Quran says about a treaty between a Muslim and a non-Muslim not being binding on the Muslim.
Course, he believes
We will
Muslims.
ignore that. We'll just all get along. It'll be splendid. By the way, they hate the Fakistinians. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kuwaitis oust them. They and Saudi Arabia, they're not allowed to even exist. And Jordan, you either had to renounce your loyalty to them or you were exported. The Egyptians had a group of them. They got rid of them. Why do you think the biggest wall around Gaza is on the Egyptian side of the border? They all despise them. They're just
Right.
They're revolting parasites.
I've never understood how we're going to have the capital in East Jerusalem and have Gaza be a part of this Fakistinian state. How did they get to their capital? They walk right across
Yeah, cut Israel
and toss
in
in. Yeah.
cut Israel
Every day.
in two. Yeah, you cut Israel in two. That's how they do it. Make Israel, which is already a country that has too little land to defend itself from billions of Muslims around them that want their annihilation, but they're going to make it even smaller and divide it and put an Islamic state in its core.
Mm.
This is what's going to happen. That's the only way that the Abraham Accords are spread, and it is the ultimate weapon that will be used to destroy Israel. So here we are, observing the beginning of the time of troubles as we announced, and we're now witnessing the very tool of betrayal. In this case, betrayal has been gift wrapped. It is something that Netanyahu will accept gleefully.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. Judea and Samaria is absolutely unbelievable to me, to give up that much land, because the settlers, the Yehudim that are living there, they cannot continue to live there under any sort of Palestinian.
Correct. Correct.
They have to
Correct.
go somewhere else, and it is a
Yeah.
huge swath of land.
Yeah, look at what happened in all of the Islamic countries between prior to 1948 and after 1948. Jewish populations went from hundreds of thousands per country down to 10, 15 Jews in these countries, some absolutely zero. So Jews in Fakistan, there'll be none.
Yeah.
Muslims in Israel, millions.
Mm-hmm.
Jews in the Islamic State, yeah, I guess there'll be some if you count dead.
Right.
So it's a betrayal of your own people. It's a betrayal of your God. It's a betrayal of reason. How well did giving up the high ground of Czechoslovakia work to achieve peace with the Nazi Germans, who, by the way, were in league with the Muslims?
Yeah, it did not at all.
It did not.
That,
No,
that
Sudan wasn't Neville Chamberlain's to give, and it had the exact opposite effect. Same thing is going to be true when something that Israel has too little of, land, is given to people who have never known peace. It's going to have an even more horrible and undeniable effect than peace in our time did with Neville Chamberlain. It's going to be one of the great betrayals of all time. That's why the prophets spoke of it, and we're flabbergasted that it's happening. That's why Dode is so enraged now as he looks down upon his people, saying, I may have made a lot of mistakes, but I unified this country. I fought to defend it in 66 battles, and here you're just giving it away.
Giving
Giving it away. And yet Israel is a vassal of Donald
happy
Trump,
to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, because this isn't something that, with all the talk of Tucker and AIPAC and Israel controlling, the presidency of the United States. I mean, that's a joke, because how does the United States betray Israel this bad? But Israel's happy to give it up for this idea, this promise of peace.
I looked the other day at Dupern's on foreign lobbying efforts in the United States, and you hear the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and Nick Fuentes and the like, and you would think that Mar Massey and his squabbles are all of the talking heads on YouTube, that Israel was by far the biggest donor, and that no one could avoid the Israeli lobby because they had all this money to spend. That Israel's not even in the top 10.
Right.
Not even the top 10. Liberia, who last year was the largest. Prior to that, it was China. Canada is way up there, as is North Korea. Bahamas, and Bahamas actually spends more than Israel does in the United States. I mean, it's wow. You read the countries that are in the top 10 and you say, what are they getting for that money? And Israel is not among them. So why aren't people complaining? The Bahamas have way too much influence. Liberia. Yeah, those Liberians, man. Got to watch those Liberians. They were number 1 last year. And then you've got Saudi Arabia and Qatar. They're significant players, United Arab Emirates. But they've even pulled back here recently. China has gone down next to nothing. It says it's just a waste of money. So China, which was by far the largest, is almost a non-player right now. But no, it's not Israel. And it's not the Israeli lobby. It's just an excuse to go off and have a
Blame the
boogeyman.
Jews. Blame the Jews.
The
That's
oldest conspiracy in the world. Al Jazeera was the one that took that last picture right there and say that this is the terms as they are being discussed among the Pakistanis and the Trump released to the Saudi Arabians and to the Kuwaitis and the like. So the terms that were distributed between them, they articulated them, and it says if these are indeed what he has negotiated, it'll be the greatest surrender in American history.
Yeah, he's the 9th, the 10th. How much peace has Trump brought to the world recently? The 9th, 10th war that he stopped.
Yeah. This one he can't even stop the one that he started. The sad thing about this, as I say, is that I don't care that he failed. I know him to be Satan, so I'm delighted that he failed. In fact, he's giving Satan a bad image. You would have thought that Satan would do better than somebody like this. He's just a bully in a sandbox. He's so pathetic that for there to be MAGA, you have to realize that MAGA is a mental disorder.
Yes.
And that to be a Christian MAGA, of which most MAGA are, you're getting it both ways, and you are just absolutely a wreck of a human being.
Yeah, there's no cure for that mind virus to have to both strains of politics and religion that intertwined. Yeah. We just talked about this one, the two-state. And then we go to the other side of the Marxists.
Yeah. They were Israel, almost 3 years late, is trying to now engage in the war of public opinion that we begged Israel to engage in right away. I told Israel, do not bury those bodies right away. Don't disrupt the crime scenes. Take all manner of pictures, capture all evidence that you can. The GoPro cameras that the Muslims were using to confess to the crime. Download it all. Download every security cam video and every picture that could possibly be taken. Don't gray anything out. Show it for exactly what it is. Hour upon hour upon hour, the rapes, the tortures, the confessions, all of it. Because if you don't do that and you lash out at the perpetrators, then the whole world is going to think that you're the bully. You're going to be the perceived perpetrators of genocide as opposed to the victims of Islamic genocide. And they didn't. And, they claim, well, the sensibilities, you can't torment those poor families that lost loved ones. Yes, you can. Because you have to frame it correctly. And what you do is to say, they're either captive or they're dead. Do you want their deaths to mean nothing?
Right.
Or do you want their captivity and death to speak volumes? Do you want to make them heroes? And they're heroes if their story is told, because it will lead to the survival of the Jewish state. But if you don't, if you cover it up because of your sensibilities, then they died for nothing. They are forgotten, and they died for nothing. And that's what Israel did.
Yeah. May their memory be a blessing. You have to make their memory a blessing. There's work involved. They have to respond correctly and let people know exactly what these people suffered. Not just talk about it. It has to be shown because that's how we are today.
And here, this is one of the things that was exceedingly troubling to me. The Muslims filmed everything they did, just like did the Nazis before them. They confessed to every crime. They wanted the world to see what they did in terms of rape and torture and mutilation while screaming Allahu Akbar. And even though they confessed to the crime, even though it's their own confession, even though it was uncoerced, the Marxist news agencies, both mainstream and social media, wouldn't allow the confession to play. I gave up on Facebook. You want to know the primary reason I gave up on Facebook is that I presented a video that the Muslims themselves had shot. And Facebook, the disgusting idiots that manage that despicable swamp, said I was promoting terrorism as opposed to opposing it. And I just realized Facebook is a waste. I mean, you can't deal with people and machines that stupid, that immoral. And to oppose Islamic terrorism, you get the same reception on X. And you are absolutely not welcome on YouTube. And so the Marxists that ran those institutions, and okay, X was run by a liberal that turned MAGA. So the MAGAs are just as bad. There's no value of social media anymore. Mainstream media wouldn't play it, and the social media wouldn't play it. And so, here you are. The only chance you have is to do it on the internet. Like we have our 10/7 memorial. It's the most visited aspect of the site.
Yeah.
It's too bad that the books are not, and they would read Goddamn Religion to find out what caused it and what they can do to stop it.
Yeah. The books are free on yadayada.com. That the 10/7 memorial is on Yada,
Free.
and 3,000 testimonials there,
Yep. To Islamic terrorism. Golda Meir. Everybody wants to present her as a great hero. One of her great lines that said that the Arabs could lay down their arms tomorrow and there would be peace. The Jews could lay down their arms tomorrow and there would be no more Jews. And she's right, and she's tragically wrong. And where she's wrong is the curse of Israel even today. Israelis, the world at large, is unwilling to acknowledge that it isn't an Arab problem. It's an Islam problem. And the Islam's problem isn't those who have corrupted their religion. It's not radicals. It's the Quran. It's Allah. It's Muhammad. Muhammad was a ruthless terrorist. He ran a criminal enterprise. He was a pedophile. He was a rapist. He was a mass murderer. He was a slave trader. And the Quran condones what Muhammad did. And Allah is worse than almost anyone who has ever lived. And Allah is worse than Muhammad. They're terrorists. They're mass murderers. They're slavers. They're sexual perverts. And when you have a religion that is allowed to infest the world, and that you enrich it on this hydrocarbon trade, then you put yourself in a position that Israel put itself in. She didn't know what she was opposing. And look at that stupid star behind her. It's just repulsive.
Yeah.
The Jews rallied around the symbol of the Holocaust, of segregation, demonization, dehumanization. Christians have dehumanized and demonized Jews for 18 centuries. And the worst of what they did to Jews, they did it under that symbol.
Right.
And to use that symbol to apply it to your state and to your religion is almost unfathomable on how grotesque it is.
Stockholm syndrome.
Doesn't make it right.
No, I to paraphrase was it Carville? It is Islam, stupid. It is just plain old-fashioned Islam, not fundamentalist Islam, not radical Islam, just plain old-fashioned. It is just Islam, period.
And if you don't think that's correct, because that doesn't meet with your sensibilities, then you go read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion. And then you write me a letter. In fact, do the world a favor. Prove it wrong. And you'd have to, by the way, prove every point I bring up wrong. And all I do is cite the Quran and Hadith. I got no other sources, just the words and deeds of Allah and Muhammad, that's all I cite, you would have to prove they're all wrong. 4,250 pages of evidence, and you'd have to prove it all wrong. And you can't. Because the only answer is to goddamn religion is that the Quran and Hadith don't matter, that they're all untrue, based on a complete lie. And okay, so they are hideous in sexual perversity, in promoting the slave trade, and stealing, and lying, and just being genocidal, that then there's no purpose for Islam, because they are Islam. That is, then what you're saying is okay. The basis of Islam is horrific, but it's okay. We'll tolerate Islam anyway. Is that what you're going to say? And I'm not attacking Islam based upon some Muslims that are acting badly. I'm attacking Islam based upon its founder, Muhammad, and its God, Allah, and what they said in their scriptures, not what anybody else said about them. And when you can prove 10,000 times over, marshaling 4,200 pages of evidence using their words, that they are criminal, that they are genocidal, that they're sexually perverted, that their goal is to annihilate the world, then what do you have left? What are you going to do? There is no response to it. Oh, you got the ad hominem attack. Well, unfortunately, that's a racial fallacy. So then what? Argumentum by distraction? You're going to bring up something else? That's a logical fallacy too.
My nice Muslim neighbor that hasn't killed me yet. I mean, that's your proof point. So he's a bad Muslim. Okay, you know,
not non sequitur. So that's a rational fallacy too. Now what you got?
Right.
I am so hideously disgusted by MAGA Twistianity. I find it to be amongst the most repulsive lies ever perpetrated on humanity. And here they have their pretend Jesus. Jesus never existed. But let's just play along. Jesus was a man who couldn't defend himself, who men killed. And you want to believe that the man God that men killed is capable of defending another man 2,000 years later. He couldn't defend himself and was killed by Jews who had no power whatsoever. And you want me now to believe that he's back on duty, miraculously doing what he couldn't do for himself, and his choice of someone to protect is a pedophile and a rapist and a thief and a blackmailer, a man with the foulest of all mouths, a man who is vicious, a warmonger, an egomaniacal bastard. And that's the man your man God is saving? You can be that stupid. You can be that immoral. You can be that irrational. Is that because that is what you are promoting here? You want stupid people to believe in a stupid God on behalf of a disgusting, demonic maniac.
Who, by the way, happens to be Rahab. I mean, let's not. This is
Satan incarnate.
This is Jebus protecting Satan here, right? This is what we're depicting. I mean,
that's right. We have Jesus got his hand on his back. Jesus is protecting Satan. Wouldn't that make your man God demonic?
Mm-hmm.
So according to the prophets, there's no question that man there is Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Just got lucky. Pray for him. You know, I don't pray, but there's times when I've certainly wanted the outcome he deserves. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen for another 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the glare that I'm dealing with
Oh,
out here, I
it's,
can't have. I don't have a
it's
clue
the-
what that says.
The Hashem didn't give us the Torah. He gave us a
Uh-huh.
mission, a blueprint, a love letter for life. Who did?
Okay.
Who did what?
First of all, what they're claiming is that's what's in the Torah. So why don't you find a Hashem for me in the Torah? I'll give you an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year. Heck, you got 7 years later left. Why don't you find for me a Hashem in the Torah?
Mm-hmm.
Because you said that it was Hashem that gave it to you. Why didn't Hashem take any credit for it?
Right.
There is no Hashem in it, you idiot. And it is not a love letter. There is damn little love in that book, I want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hate, however. It boils over and absolutely is overwhelmingly hateful. And you know what God's hateful of? Religious Jews. And so here you're talking on the basis of religion, when the primary theme of that book is that Yahweh despises religion, and particularly when his people act up religiously. He didn't give you a love letter for life. He told you how to that you would do this, and in doing this, it would be the end of your life. Every time you acted out in a religious way, God killed you. He did not love you. He burned up everything around the territory. The man who was entrusted to write the Torah hated you so much, he didn't want to go on this mission. And when he went on this mission, he hadn't left Choreb 3 days before he came to God and said, "These people are obnoxious. They're impossible. I do not want to continue. I would prefer that you kill me to having to live another day with these people." Does that sound very loving to you?
No.
By the way, when
What?
Yahweh spoke to you directly, you told him to shut up and go away. You told him that you never wanted to see him or hear from him again. Does that sound very loving to you?
Yeah.
When God gave you the gift of the promised land, and you had the spies that went in to see it, and you came back with all manner of lies and said that, no, we don't want this. We'd rather go back to Egypt. And he said, everybody over 20, you're dead. Does that sound loving to you? Now, what about the waters of Meribah? Is that loving? The golden calf? Is that loving?
Yeah.
Because I want to tell you, the story of the Torah is God being so disgusted with the children of Israel that every time he was around them, he was wiping them out because there was no purpose to them. They were obnoxious. It's not a love letter. It's God saying, I hate religion, and I despise what you have become. I made a promise. I'm going to honor my promise, but I have to hold my nose to stand the stench of you to get you into the promised land. And even there, you're going to continue to be belligerent and obnoxious to the very end. And finally, I'm going to have to go to a goy because there's not a single one of you that's receptive. I can't love any one of you because you're so religious and obnoxious. Read the damn Torah, what I would say. Yeah, it has lots of lessons. And it's inspired by Yahweh. But it
Can't
is
even come back until they're cleaned
universally
up.
anti-religious. You know, when Yahweh kicked his firstborn Adam and the wicked witch of Eden out of the garden, with one man, he was lethargic. He didn't have any character, didn't have any drive. It was just a lousy lump on a log to spend any time with. God tried. No matter what they tried, it just wasn't working. Adam had no initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And so Yahweh says, okay, this is boring as hell. You know, I don't know how many more times I can watch the goldfish swim around the bowl without clawing my eyes out. And it's not right for this man that I've created to be alone. So I'm going to give him a woman. And he did. So one was lethargic, and that's not good. Two of them were conniving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bad. And so God boots them out of the garden, and Nasalma man proliferates in that region. And God says that every day, perverted, corrupt, he uses Hamas. He says they were violent and vicious terrorists. And so God said, when they became many, they became universally bad. And that's the lesson that no one seems to be able to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Judaism, large institution, bad. America, large nation, bad. Rome, large empire, very, very bad. Roman Catholic Church, largest institution on earth, exceedingly evil. That every time man proliferates, he becomes evil. One man, not good. Many men, bad. It's always the case. And that's why God said, I regret having created man. And this is unique because it's not true with any other animal.
Nope.
In a school of sardines, they don't turn on each other and bite off each other's tails. You know, a herd of wildebeest aren't stamping their children to death and sacrificing their children. They aren't going off as zebras and saying, boy, there's some really nice grass over there, but those other zebras, they got different stripes than we do, and let's go and annihilate them so that we can, we'll enslave the women, make them sex slaves, and we'll sell the children zebras to the next colony over. They could use some workers, and we'll mutilate the big daddy zebras, and we'll steal their land. Is zebras doing that?
No.
There's only one animal that does that.
Yeah.
And that's Nasalma man. And so God realized that Nasalma man experiment was completely and totally failed. Bad idea, didn't work. And that's the lesson I don't think that I can get across to people. And Kevin, it has a huge influence on trying to understand where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my job, our job, is to help people understand that religion will preclude them living a life beyond this one on earth. And the promotion of religion and politics will earn them a guaranteed reservation in Sheol, which is a black hole. And that God is offering to those who listen to him, who think about what he has to say, who respond appropriately, and engage in such a way that they demonstrate that they can be trusted. That God is offering an eternity elevated into 7 dimensions and a tremendous inheritance. That our job is to convey those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And to prepare people so that those who are interested can choose the covenant option. And then to hope that there will be, and we know there will be, a mortal remnant that's allowed back into the garden. And we've analyzed all the refined gold of Orifor, and that's 1,400 people. And that could be the mortal remnant of Yisrael. It can't be total numbers of people, total mortals, because you couldn't run the planet. It'd be impossible for us to generate energy, generate food, run sanitation systems, manage roads, all the kind of things that you have to have if you're going to live distributed around the world. But there's this conflict here, and this addresses that conflict not in a way that resolves it, in a way that helps us at least understand it a little better. God realizes that Nasalma man is It's a horrible mistake.
Mm-hmm.
That not even 1 in a million Nasalma men and women are capable of being beneficial. Not even 1 in a million. And that the more of us there are, the worse we become. So God can't open the garden and say, here, millions of you, free reign, go on in, have a good time. No, he can't do that. I was talking to Perry earlier at breakfast, and he was saying, well, obviously I'll speak the same language in the garden. I said, no, we won't. What was one of God's very first things he did? He confused language because
Babel.
we make a mess of things when we all communicate well with each other. You think everyone's going to be living in Jerusalem? No, because when we congregate together, we become really bad. He's not remaking humanity. He's giving certain people an opportunity to do better.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the same tendencies, even scrubbed of religion, even without anyone promoting it at a moment in time with them all wiped out. It's not like Adam and Chawa, we're going to Sunday school and that corrupted them. They just had the propensity that when there were 2 of them, they were worse than 1. And when there were 4 of them, that was worse than 2. And then when there was a bunch of them, that was far worse than the 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible. And so God can't have all that many. Just can't. It won't work. And yet you have to have, I would say, in the range of 500,000 people out here if we're going to run the planet, produce food, transportation, sanitation, power generation, internet communication, manufacturing. God can't just simply say, well, I'll tear down everything and I'll build new houses for everybody. Then what's the point? I mean, God wants us to work. You can't say, well, we're going to go back to hunter-gatherers. No, we're not. If we're hunter-gatherers, we're not learning anything. We're just spending all of our time hunting and gathering. And are we going to be slaughtering animals like that? And we know there's going to be herds. We're told specifically there's going to be herds. So there'll be protein to eat along with the vegetables and fruit. So we're not going back to the garden where there's just a bunch of fruit trees. And even then, somebody's got to harvest the fruit and share the fruit, and then clean up after the fruit. And so, it's a lot to think about as to what's going to happen as we go forward. But the biggest challenge of all is to recognizing God is not looking for a lot of us. In fact, he must make it such that there's very few of us. So when we talk about the covenant being harvested with the standing grain on Shabuah here on the 11th of June. And by the way, I guess it really shook up some of the Mother Goddess cult that it didn't happen when they thought it was going to happen. I'm getting even letters from them now saying, oh, my, can you forgive me? I don't want to go to hell. So too late. So we're got to recognize that God is not interested in having a lot of people be part of that harvest, because everybody that is part of that harvest is empowered just operate in 7 dimensions. We can warp matter with our minds. That's not something you can have as a capability if you can't be trusted.
Right.
And God knows that when there's a lot of us, we aren't trustworthy. So that's one of the things, by the way, that I'm so appreciative of, is that we came to the realization that we do not want to harvest to take place concurrent with the entry to the time of Israel's troubles on this past Shabuah, because it would mean that there'd be so very few that could be harvested, because while there were many who were listening and were observing the conditions of the covenant and attending the Mohadim, they weren't making a contribution. And so there was nothing that God could use to evaluate whether or not they could be trusted.
Right.
And so this whole idea of many of the covenant members now doing their own presentations, starting blogs and producing them, which are central to that project, which my only contribution can be, I think you ought to do this, and I think it ought to be such that we can show them on our site the following way and provide the encouragement and technology. I cannot contribute to them and really can't say much about them, because the whole purpose is for you to take initiative and to have other covenant members rally around you. That's wonderful. And for them to do their own, that's wonderful. And for them to watch, that's wonderful. And to contribute in every possible way, that's great. Do it.
Yeah.
And the more of you that do it, the more independent you are, the more independent of me you are, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're demonstrating that you're somebody God should trust. You're making a contribution. And it's not just that you're demonstrating that God can trust you, and therefore you're affirming your own eventual harvest. That's all good and well. But somewhere along the way, you have to stop thinking like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have ever thought that way. I'm not sure you've ever thought that way. I don't think that, well, I'm doing this, so I'm assuring that I'm amongst those being harvested. Ever. I don't do this to say, boy, I'm really guaranteeing my inclusion. Never. You do what God wants because he happens to be God, and doing what he wants is the single most important thing we can do with our lives. And you know that the satisfaction you're providing to our Maker to prove that he wasn't wrong in creating us, and that we could listen to him and respond to him and think about what he had to say, and we could prove our worth, that we could make mistakes and learn from them, and we could make good companions, and we could figure things out, and that he could enjoy our company. When the moment you change your mindset and you say, what does God get out of this? What am I doing for the entity that created me? And what am I contributing to others who will be in that same position? And when you think that way and you're completely out of yourself, then that's the position you want to be in. When you're at that position and you're making a significant contribution and you're doing it with your entire focus on pleasing Yahweh and encouraging others either to be part of the covenant, or you're encouraging others to engage and be a more productive part of the family, then you're where you need to be.
Well, the synergy is absolutely important. I concur with that. When doing things and multiple parties are benefited from it, then absolutely that's a good thing. Those are the top things that you can find to do with your life in the time we have left, for sure. I'm not sure that the a priori conscious motivation for each thing is essential, because it's difficult. It's chicken and egg is a bad example, but I'm doing this and others are benefiting, and I'm benefiting as well, so it is circular in my mind, not necessarily that I'm doing this so that I get into the harvest, but I'm doing something that other people benefit from and that I enjoy doing, and I receive benefit from too. I'm not necessarily an altruistic person, okay? I'm not going to do something just when I receive no benefit from it whatsoever. Even helping a little old lady across the street, I got to do it because it makes me feel good to do it, okay? Not just that it was the so-called right thing to do. That's the kind of person
I think you've missed something that is really essential to the equation. I've long said that the reason people are depressed is they're into themselves, and that the only cure for depression is to get out of yourself. When you start caring about and focused on others other than yourself, you are never depressed.
Yeah.
When you're focused on yourself, you're always depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so by doing something that is beneficial to our Creator, makes him happy, satisfied, and you do something that is good for others within the covenant family, then you are out of yourself, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you're out of yourself, your attitude is always good. So
Mm-hmm.
now you have a positive attitude. You feel good about yourself. You are getting that thing of value. Whereas if you
Mm-hmm.
don't do these things and you're just a sponge trying to, what can I take in? What can I take in? What's your focus again? It's on yourself. And if your
Right.
focus is on yourself, it is going to lead to depression.
Sure.
So the
But
best way so the thing that you can do that is best for you is to get out of yourself and focus on what you can do that is better for others, particularly when you're following an example set by the creator of the universe.
Absolutely. He is the source of all energy flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that flows from outside of him. And so if we take a little bit of that energy and we put our own little sauce with it and increase that energy flow out of us, we benefit from that as well. We gain that energy. We're able to show that we can contribute, we can take what he gives us and like a light prism, magnify it or spread it around, whatever the case may be,
Yeah, I'm not sure it's quite that esoteric. I think it
Mhm.
really just gets down to, we were given a marvelous set of instructions. We're able to understand some percentage of it, learn more about it every day. You can read the same statement one day to the next and understand 10 times more a month from now than you can when you first began it. But we're given instructions.
Mhm.
We are given the opportunity to contemplate what they mean and how to apply them. Like we're having a conversation. What is eternity going to be like in this 1,000 years? And then, thereafter, it's a whole different scenario, because everybody after the 1,000 years is going to be a 7-dimensional being. So it's a completely different construct that we can't even relate to, or can't even speak about, because no one has any concept of what it's like to be 4-dimensional, much less 7.
Right.
But in terms of our lives here in 3D over the next 7 years, I'm not sure we have to tap into a source of energy or reflect a source of energy. I think it's really very fundamental. Listen to what God had to say, particularly if and God has appointed someone for our day to analyze what he has said and convey it in a way that's practical, so that we can think about it and apply it to our lives and benefit and
Mhm.
make a positive contribution, know where we stand based on it. Take that material, learn from it, grow from it, apply it. And when you're doing that, good things are going to happen.
Absolutely. If
Yeah. This weekend, I was able to prepare another 1,500 pages. That's a lot. And
Mhm.
that's almost the equivalent of the entire Torah, Prophets, and Psalms.
Mhm.
I was able to prepare another 1,500 pages, which is translations, analysis, commentary, and insights for Coming Home 4, 5, and 6. And did it so that it could be posted as pre-pub books on the site. I hope that happens quickly before we get all the superscript in. It still would be very effective and have to be formatted perfectly. And it doesn't have to be all fact checked and copy edited, because we can always replace an old one with a new one. But there's
Mhm.
1,500 pages of translations, commentary, and insights that we can all grow from and benefit from.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good thing to do.
Contribution for right.
Yeah, and now whoever's going to have the yada yada book clubs, you got new material you can go to,
Absolutely.
and And some of this material is really cutting edge, particularly what we just learned in the 30th chapter of Yeshaya, Isaiah. Uh, it's an amazing perspective on God's view of this planet
Mm-hmm.
now, and how upset he is with humanity, and why there's going to be so few people that make it from here to there, and why Israel's going to have such a tough go of it, because Israel, from God's point of view, is the most stubborn, obnoxious people on the planet. Yeah, he hates Islam and he hates Christianity and he hates Judaism, but the people that irk him the most are those that he chose.
Mm-hmm.
Jews who shouldn't even be Jews. They should be Yehud.
Right. Yeah, that is a huge amount of contribution, and it is exciting that with 30, Maorith is probably one of my favorite. I mean, going back into Bereshith, fourth, and talking about the greater and lesser luminaries, because that's a perspective that absolutely no one has ever before looked at, and that perspective molds in so well with the other body of work. It is a continuation. It is a deepening of the understanding. And as we have that and share that, it just, we gain more confidence in what was written before. Oh, now I get this piece, and now I get this piece. It continues to strengthen.
It does something that I didn't expect that it would. Of course, it tells you that God has a singular plan, and very few people that have passed muster with him so that he trusts them, and those souls are prepared and reinserted over time. And it's the same souls, and particularly two, the greater and lesser luminary, are the two most deployed souls over time. It's been over 6,000 years that these two individuals, and it's a third because one of them drags along his wife every place he goes. So it is these three that are replicated over and over again, and they're always given the roughest duty. They're always inserted to do the toughest job at the most critical time, at a time where if they don't prevail, if they fail, the entire human experience fails with them. Yeah. And they're still fairly ordinary individuals. You wouldn't be able to pick them out from a crowd, but there is an attitude, an aptitude, whatever it might be, where God says, "No, I can work with these men and women, and I can get it done with them." And so that perspective of how God said, "I'm going to fulfill the Moedim," the key markers throughout time, the 7 annual feasts, which mean nothing to a Christian, to someone practicing Judaism either, nor to a Muslim or to a Marxist, but they are the markers in time. They are the path to God, and there's two people that fulfill them. And so that part, I think, is fascinating, and how then you see them working together throughout time, but then they come together in the end, and the interaction between them in the end is extraordinary, and it's completely misunderstood by the scholars and the faithful. There is no bloody moon, not in the sense of a sign from the sky, and the sun is not obscured in the sense of it going dark in the sky. These are the sun and the moon represent those two luminaries, and so what is said of them is what's going to happen to them. And it's the lesser luminary that is, as God said, it's the greatest of all slaughters. It's the most vicious murder in the history of humanity that will take place. That's why he's the bloody red man from the earth. That's why he is Adamah. That's why blood is in the midst of Adam. Damn. And so that part was fascinating, I will tell you. But the thing that was the most interesting to me is how it explains how the lie of Christianity came to be. Because there really was a mother and father of the Savior. It's just that Their names weren't Joseph and Miriam. Miriam's the worst name you could possibly ever name anyone. Miriam means embittered, yeah, and rebellious. She's the person that God hated. No, their names are Ruth and Boaz.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the great-grandparents, and they were also the parents of Dode, who was the actual Messiah, called Emmanuel in 2 BCE when he was conceived by them. And their role as parents and him growing up and them having more sons and daughters to support him explains the mythical, how Paul created the myth of Jesus and the disciples and the birth, Bethlehem, and all of that sort of thing. Boaz was the uncontested leader of Bethlehem at his day. And we're told that Ruth says, I am the shepherdess. I am the Amma. I am your Amma. I am your productive mother, and I'm going to deliver for you the kinsman redeemer. And so God told us exactly how they were going to work together, and they do. And they work together under many names throughout time. They are Noach and his wife. They are Ethan Ha'izraki and his wife, the Amma. And when you realize this is what actually happened when Dode is presented to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim, then you get to see how all of the lies that Paul told in his creation of Jesus as the counterfeit of Dode, he drew from something that actually happened. He just gave it a bogus name and derived a erroneous conclusion. But not out of thin air. So it explains all of it. And it gives you such a grounded understanding of who we are and what has to happen, and what we will continue to do, and why God has asked us to do these things, why he has said so much about us. Because God says more about us than anyone by a long shot. And it's not because we're perfect, because we're not. I mean, Dode was hugely flawed. And, you know, God's not interested in perfect. He's interested in resilient.
Right.
Are you open to him? Are you observant? Are you listening? Are you thoughtful? Are you responsive? Are you resilient? Do you learn from your mistakes? And then once you do, and you've shown that you can get up when you're fallen, you become bold. And that's when people develop character and confidence. You know, if you're knocked down a bunch of times and every time you've been able to get back up and get going, those people are the most confident.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that the next jolt, the next obstacle, so what? Well, we've solved them all in the past. We'll solve another one.
Right. Been there, done that. Let's go.
Been there, done that, you know, and, that's the kind of thing Yahweh is looking for. And so by studying his cast of characters and when he deployed them through Maorth, we get a vastly superior, more complete perspective and understanding on God's plan, how he is engaged with us and what he's trying to accomplish, because his style, whether it's you want to accept it or not, I'm not speaking of you personally, but the religious don't want to accept it. They want God to do his own thing. But God's style is not. He says, no, I think it's better when I work through people. That's exactly his response to Moshe and Israel when they told him to shut up and go away. He said, yeah, I agree. I think that's a good plan. And he has. And so he's continually worked through people ever since. And he gets to choose the people. And once he chooses somebody, he does with them what he did with Chinook. This is, again, you're going to make me mad. You're just there to make me mad. I guess that's not your fault. I posted it. Shabbat
Not my blog.
Pentecost. Yeah, I know. Shabbat
Just the vlog
Pentecost.
side of it.
Yeah, Shabbat is just a lousy harvest of grain. Oh, so remedial. But within Christianity, it's Pentecost and it's a harvest of souls. So, moron, if that's true, then why did God call it one thing when you're calling it another?
Mm-hmm.
How can you be right if you claim that's your God? If you're claiming that your religion is based upon God having inspired the Torah, how can you contradict it? And let me ask you another question. Have you ever read Acts 2? Because Acts 2 is where you claim Shavuot, as Pentecost. That's when you claim it. Was there a harvest? Nope. There wasn't, was there? No, what there was a birth of your ridiculous church. And can you find a reference to a church in the prophets or the Torah? Nope. In fact, you can't even find a reference to a church in your own New Testament because it isn't there. And nobody was harvested on that day, according to your malarkey that Luke wrote on putting words in Peter's mouth. You know why there wasn't any harvest? Because all that he said is that people were out speaking other languages. Didn't say anybody was understanding anything that was being said. It just said that people were able to speak in different languages. That was the sum total of what happened on your Pentecost, is that people spoke in different languages. Guess what language they didn't speak in?
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Yeah.
What's the language of the Torah and the prophets?
Hebrew. Yes.
Hebrew. What's the language of God's chosen people?
Hebrew.
Hebrew. So the language they omitted was
Hebrew.
Yeah. And so you got, and some of the languages that they list on their list are so insignificant as to what in the world were you thinking here? And that's it. And then you claimed Yoel 2 as your proof text. But you were wrong by 2,000 years, because the proof text in Yoel talks about the last days, not the birth of your church. And the story in Yoel 2 is that Christians are going to be destroyed. Christianity will be destroyed. So why are you touting Pentecost as a harvest of souls when all it's going to do is condemn them? It's obvious that Luke and Peter lied regarding Joel 2. Obvious. And you don't have to be a genius to know it does not fit. And it was cited to fit, and it does not fit. Therefore, they lied. And you can't call it a harvest of souls, because it was the only thing that happened that day is people spoke in a bunch of languages, according to the propaganda. Not that anybody understood anything.
Right.
And not a single thing they had to say was recorded. So what was the purpose? What was the benefit? If nothing that they had to say was recorded, and nobody understood what they had to say, and they were claiming that they were speaking to everybody in the language that they understood, but they spoke in languages where there was nobody like that in that community. This was Roman-occupied Yehuda. A few people might have spoken Aramaic. Some would have spoken Latin. Some would have spoken Greek. Most spoke Hebrew. Two of those languages you didn't even mention. I think there were three of those languages that weren't even mentioned. So who are they speaking to?
Right.
And what did they have to say? And why was this associated with Shabuah, when Shabuah is a harvest of standing and mature grain? And why did you quote Yoel when that prophecy pertains to 7 years from now and not then? And why are you still a Christian when it's so obvious that all of that is a concoction of lies? And why would you believe in a Jesus figure when no one named Jesus lived in first century Yehuda? Why would you believe any of this when there isn't a single written eyewitness account? Not one. Not a single contemporaneous record. not independently, but not even in your collection of fairy tales. Is there a single contemporaneous eyewitness account? The earliest two were part of Paul's posse. Paul wrote the first 14 letters of the Christian New Testament from 52 to 66 CE. He died completely rejected and alone, and he admitted that he was demon possessed and he committed every rational fallacy there was. He never once quoted the imaginary Jesus, and never once. And every time that he quoted something from Yahweh, he forgot his name and misquoted him.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the first 14 letters, and his posse wrote the next three books, which would have been Mark, Luke, and the book of Acts, which tells us about your Pentecost. And it's just filled with all manner of lies. And those were written in 75 CE, 2 generations after the fact. No, you got nothing. You really have nothing. You can't claim Josephus. He wasn't even alive at the time. He hadn't even been born. So you got nothing. And we don't have a copy of Josephus's work in Greek, which was the language that he wrote it in, until the 9th century. And the only person that claims to have a copy of the text was Eusebius, and he's the greatest con of all time. He's the one that actually augmented the story in Vaticanus and Sinaiticus to insert the line, you are the Christ, and then the response, upon this rock I will build my church, when the entire narrative is insanely stupid. And
where does that take place?
Oh, in front of the cave to Pan, the gates of hell. And I mean, you can tear apart every single word of that and to show that there is a 0% possibility that it occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be unbelievably moronic in the third year that they were together that he's saying, oh, by the way, I never bothered to tell you who I am. I don't know why you're following me, actually. Because I've never bothered to tell you who I am and why I'm here. And this is now just days before it all ends. So I'll pop the question. So who do you think I am?
Mm-hmm.
No, astonishingly stupid. But they needed a Christ, and unfortunately, who knows why they wanted a Christ, other than the Jews were longing for a Messiah. But the prophets don't speak of a Messiah that is to come. They speak of a Messiah that has been here, not one to come. So they picked up on a lie and turned it into a religion by piling a bunch more lies on it. So, yeah, it's pretty revolting to see how easily Christians have been fooled into believing that which has a 0% possibility of being true. It's just a pile of worthless lies.
2.2 billion today and billions over its lifetime.
Yep.
Succumb to the mind virus.
Oh, yeah. The Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, has also admitted that he was demon possessed. He tells the whole story of how the demons got him and bribed by Muslims. And he says that Israel is the most violent country on earth. You know, the most violent country on earth is? The
United States.
The United States is the most war-prone country on earth by a long shot. And the region that's the most war-prone is Europe. And nothing comes close to Europe in terms of wars. No, Israel is not the most violent country on earth, and not by a long shot. And the fact is that the most violent religion in the world is Islam. And the reason that Israel has a significant military is because the Muslims have been trying to eradicate Jews for 1,400 years. But, he is the most popular person on social media, and he's really stupid and really demonic and really immoral. And yet he has a following which says that those of you who listen to him are idiots.
And gaining traction. There is more of them coming.
Oh, yeah. It's just disgusting. Yeah, look at this. the alcoholic that is now head of the War Department. He holds Christian monthly worship services, and we're gonna pray to Jesus because, as Pete Hexus says, if you trust Christ, we can never be wrong. Then why did you kidnap the head of Venezuela? Why did you threaten Greenland? Why did you bomb Iran? Not once, but twice. Why haven't you any way that you can get out of the mess that you created?
By that rationale,
how come America has
killed...
lost every war recently? I mean, since World War II, every war America is engaged in, America has lost. So either trusting Christ is a bad idea, or you're not trusting the Christ. But by the way, I didn't realize that the Jesus, was a general and a warmonger. Because if you're going to be a War Department and you're going to trust him, then he must have led some really, really bogus or bodacious military crusades of some sort, right?
Right.
I bet he was the one that set the example as to how to conquer Iran and teach those crazy Iranians a thing or two.
Yeah.
Was he that guy? Was he the warlord that took on the Roman subjugation of Judea? Was he the one that started the Islamic State and put his troops in Syria? Was he the one that overturned the government of Libya and turned it into a terror state? Did he do those things? Did he invade Iraq and turn it over to Iran, make an absolute disaster of it, and lie about weapons of mass destruction? Is that how you're trusting him? Is he the one that's telling you, well, I think you should invade Cuba?
Yeah.
Is he the one that tells you to trust Jesus? He's the one that tells us to blow up all those boats that you just killed people because you could? Was he the one that guided your missiles when it blew up the 250 little girls in the school? Looks to me like you've been wrong a lot, Pete. Maybe you got the wrong God, Pete.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, yeah. No one has seen our deal.
It says, if I make a deal with Iran, it'll be a good deal. And I really just like it that everybody's claiming that they know about my deal when only I know about my deal. I haven't disclosed my deal. And so what are they saying about I got a bad deal when I haven't even disclosed my deal? Well, if you haven't disclosed your deal, then how do you have a deal almost negotiated there, Mr. Confabulator? Maybe I'll think through what you're saying before you write it. You can't say that nobody knows your deal, and the day before you say, we have a deal. Because if you have a deal, then somebody has seen your deal. And by the way, the only people that have seen your deal say it's a really good deal for Iran, not so much for you. Well, Fox News, though, man, they're there. He is our confabulator and thief, and we've got him.
I don't make bad deals, he says. I just don't make bad deals.
Yeah, you make only bad deals. Yeah,
this is an interesting concept here. You pop in because if Trump accepts a deal, someone reads the deal to him, someone complains about the deal, Trump changes the deal. So Trump cannot be trusted to negotiate any deal, much like a Muslim. So who wins this one?
Yeah, see, this is interesting. Of course, Trump was saying he didn't make his son's wedding because he was working in the Oval Office of the White House, and that he is the one that has worked out this deal, and that he had a deal that's been largely agreed to with Iran, and it will guarantee that the Straits of Hormuz are open, and that that was his deal. And so, boy, he is the great deal maker. And then Well, the fact of the matter is, the deal that he did is not his deal. It's the deal that the Iranians offered.
Mm-hmm.
And because the Iranians had offered a deal and he needed a deal, he said, well, we've largely negotiated the deal, because he had to take credit for the deal, except he doesn't bother to read. So it's the last time the Iranians had a 10-point plan, and Trump says we've agreed to their 10-point plan. And then somebody had the audacity to read the 10-point plan to him. He says, well, we can't agree to that. He said, but that's what you agreed to. Well, the same thing is true here. It was the Iranian proposal. He's agreed to the Iranian proposal, and somebody read it to him, and he says, uh-oh. And then somebody, the military-industrial complex says, wait a minute, you're giving up on the war? You can't give up on the war. We like killing people. We make money when we kill people. You can't give up on this war. But it's the fact you're surrendering. You can't surrender. So somebody read the deal to him. Somebody complained about the deal. And now he is going back and he's renegotiating the deal, trying to, with Iran, and saying, oh, there is no deal, no money released, no deal until you give up all of your uranium dust.
Yeah.
So he's gone back on his deal that was almost negotiated. And somebody read the deal. Somebody complained about the deal. And so he's renegotiating the deal that didn't exist and that he hadn't done. And good luck with that. You're gonna do a deal with somebody who accepts your deal, and then when they read your deal, says, "No, I'm not going to deal with that. I want a whole different deal." No.
Yeah.
Yeah. The details on the deal. Every time that something comes out, it is a surrender by America. I have a pet peeve with Jews dressing their Torah up like it's a whore. Little crowns on it and dingle balls and all manner of things, and then they kiss it and they play with it and they pretend that that the Torah is their blessing and such a supportive book of their religion, a pillar of their religion. So they want to put it on a pedestal and dress it up like a whore and kiss it and fondle it. And
why not read it? Let's read it.
I just can't figure out how you can have a book like that, where God is so against you, so universally opposed to you. There's so many evidences in it that there wasn't anyone that got it right. Well, Chinook, Noach, not even Moshe. He blundered all over the place. They're just, you got for a brief moment Caleb, for a brief moment Yosha ben Nun. There were times that Moshe did the right thing, but he wasn't happy about it. Why would you pretend that this book is pro-Judaism? Why would you pretend that this is something you ought to celebrate in Judaism when it's so antagonistic towards religion and the children of Israel? Every time you turn around, that book is accusing the children of Israel for being obnoxious, disgusting, dishonest, arrogant, maniacal, malevolent. Read the damn book. It's not hard to read. God is approachable. It's a wonderful gift to us. It's an owner's manual, but you got to know that the gift is God saying, I want a relationship, not religion. And if you're going to be religious, there can be no relationship. This is something that is just irritating. That the only way for you to be a Marxist and support of Muslims is for your brains to be mush. You just have to have much for brains. You can't be aware of anything. You don't even know where your alleged Palestine is. You can't be aware that it has no history. You can't be aware that the colonizers have been for 14 centuries Muslims, and the Jews have never been colonializers. That Islam is the worst ever in the history of the world at imposing apartheid, at promoting the slave trade, and abusing women and making sure women have no rights, and being imposing terrorism. You have to be completely ignorant. And then to promote it, you have to double down on ignorant and add immoral. and irrational. And so what they're saying here is that if you have pro-Gaza libs watch what the mythical Palestinians, I mean, look at these names. Palestinians, there's no such people. Jews, there's no such people. And the libs are Marxists, so call them what they are.
Mm-hmm.
The Palestinians are Muslims, call them what they are. If they knew who they were, the Jews would be Yahud.
Yahud.
So they sneak under saying, hey, look how terrible these Jews are. And they show them, the Muslims, screaming Allahu Akbar, killing all manner of women, children, and raping and that sort of thing that they filmed on their GoPros. And they just are apoplectic. They've got no clue as to how to respond. And they said, this is what you're promoting. Why would you promote such a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're not thinking. We don't know. It's part of being a Marxist to be collectivists and groupthink. And the groupthink among Marxists is hate the Jews.
Then I can take other people's stuff, and I don't even have to take it. It gets just brought right to me.
Yeah, I think if you want to figure out why do Marxists hate Jews, it's because to be a Marxist, you're admitting that you cannot be productive. You're opting out of free enterprise because you've got nothing to contribute, but you're greedy. You're covetous. So you want what others have created. So you want to tax the people who have been productive, and you want to condemn them for not paying their fair share when you don't pay any share. You're just a parasite. And so as a Marxist, what you want is, since you can't be productive, you want the productivity of others. You're just covetous. And in many societies, because Jews were promoted education and hard work, they are more productive than others. And so you're just jealous of them. And so they became your enemy. And that started the Marxist hatred of Marxism. And Jews are largely better educated, and they know that collectivism is a really bad idea. It just doesn't work. Yeah. And the 8 imaginary wars. Some of the wars that he claims to have ended were actually wars. It's just that he didn't end them. And it had nothing to do. Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with them. He didn't end any war. And he's started them and can't stop them. This is interesting. The Iranians are offering tens of millions of dollars as a reward for Trump's and Netanyahu's head. And normally we would say women, calling for the assassination of a head of state, that would be a really bad thing to do. That's meaner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But didn't Trump and Netanyahu
assassinate his father?
The heads of state of there, and his father and his wife and his mother and his children and his siblings and everyone else and little schoolgirls and everything else. Why is them wanting recompense inappropriate?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why it would. I don't want to side with Iran here, and I'm certainly going to use words, and I'm never going to resort to violence. But if you're going to say you want to be fair, Trump and Netanyahu did this to them. So why would it be inappropriate for, after it was done to them, for the Iranians to respond in kind?
Yeah. Well, 30 shots fired at the White House this weekend, so somebody was trying to collect on $58 million, right?
I mean, I don't get it. Trump is Satan. You can't kill Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be done. So why try?
Right.
But beyond that, bullets are never the answer, ever. There is no situation where bullets are the answer. If words are not your most powerful weapon, you're useless. You're going to destroy far more than you're going to benefit. Oh, yeah. So the president was gathering his top security officials for an emergency White House meeting. You know why? because he has no deal with Iran. That's why.
Right.
And now he's trying to figure out, what do we do now? Do we go and we bomb them again? We got all the, Mecca over there. We used half of our stockpile of weaponry to bomb them. Do we bomb them again? Make sure the whole world hates us? Make a bad situation even worse?
Mm-hmm.
But, will they surrender? Will they wave that white flag that, that I've been waving? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is that he would have a meeting of saying, holy hell, what do we do now?
Oh, let's triple down. Yeah, it's got to be. We'll get them this time.
For the second time now, I have accepted the Iranian plan that I didn't read. For the second time now, I have announced that we had largely negotiated a plan to end the war. Twice now, it was the Iranian plan. And twice now, I hadn't read it. And when I read it, it was a surrender by the United States. And so I went and tried to negotiate different terms, and they were having nothing of it. And the same thing is happening again. Now, what do we do? Anybody got any ideas out there?
Right.
Bomb them back into the Stone Age? What are we going to do?
What does Jesus have to say about it, huh?
Yeah, well, the thing that, of course, is there. Here he is. That was the plan that he agreed to. He is bowing down at Khomeini's feet, and Iran would know it. It's the most. It's a complete and total surrender by the United States if that deal happens. And the only thing that would be between that deal and Trump approving it is confabulation. He had no idea what it actually said. There he was in the White House, and he had no clue what it said.
This one's good.
Yeah,
Trump is this close to declaring himself dictator for life, right?
Yes, he already has done that.
Mm-hmm.
He is Der Fuhrer, and it's the Fourth Reich. And if you don't know that he's already done that, then you're not paying attention. He said we don't need midterms. I don't know why we're bothering to have them. And he has Trump 48 hats that he has in the White House and that he is promoting. He's building the ballroom, not for Trump 47, but for Trump 48. He is dictator for life. He is, in fact, his announcement that he is a god will take place on the Ides of March, the famous day in Rome after the Roman emperors. But the more interesting part is that he has been positioning himself as a god. He has the White House and the MAGAs present him as a Messiah figure, is Jesus's understudy, or as Jesus as a Messiah, and he's going to dispense with all of that and just call himself God on the Ides of March in 2030. So the declaring himself dictator for life is past tense. You're not paying attention if you don't know that's what he's already done. Referring to himself as God, that's future tense. That's going to happen in 2030 when he moves to Israel. It's why he made the announcement a few days ago that he has a 99% approval rating in Israel. He effectively can run for prime minister, and he's going to go to Israel and do that. And he is. He's going to arrive there on the 29th of January in 2030. Prophets have never been wrong. That's what they have said. It's hard for me to see it. It's so dark, and I've got the glare, so we'll make this our last one.
Okay. The lies of Jews killing Christian God lies at the heart of religion, forever condemning it. The wandering Jew myth.
Yeah, it's amazing how many lies have been promoted by the Christian church against Jews over the last 1,800 years, including the first of them, which is that according to the New Testament, Jews conspired to murder the Christian God, who was a man, and killed him. And so, according to the Christian New Testament, God got so mad that Jews killed him that he decided that he would renounce all of his prior commitments and promises to the Jews, making the Christian God, of course, a liar, and the Christian God so inept that men could kill him. And it's based upon this series of lies that Christianity promotes replacement theology, where they're the new Israel and the new Jews, and where they promoted the myth of Jesus over Dode, who is the actual Messiah. So it all comes down to that fundamental lie, and that is the lie of anti-Semitism. It's the lie that undergirds the Holocaust. It's the lie that is permeating the world's hatred of Jews today. And so the bottom line here is, for anyone who is aware of what has gone on, is that from the very beginning, Christianity has been vulgar, crass, and cruel. That this is not a loving religion. This is a religion of subjugating, denouncing, dehumanizing, mass murdering people. And the people that Christianity has chosen to hate and to demean and to rob and to force into ghettos where they have stolen all of their possession and controlled their lives, torturing them for 1,800 years, are God's chosen people. I just want you to know that if you're a Christian, your religion is obnoxious. Your religion is cruel. Your religion is based on a series of despicable lies, and that God despises it. And if you promote it, he hates you too. And that's the truth. Whether you like it or not, you can't change reality. That's the reality. Christianity is a cruel hoax.
Yeah, definitely the religion of forgive us, not the religion of forgiveness as it likes to purport itself. I mean, the original popes were, just don't look at what we're doing. It's forgive us. Yeah.
The lie of Jesus has been very, very good to us. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the nature of the Christian church. Of course, you'll never find the word church in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and you won't even find the word church in the New Testament. You say, oh, yeah, it's there. I can read it right there. Upon this rock, I'll build my church. It says ecclesia. Ecclesia cannot be transliterated church. It cannot be translated church. There was no church. And the whole thing is a hoax designed to control and police people. And if you've been brought into it, shame on you. There's no such thing as Christianity. No such thing as a coming Messiah. There was no Jesus. God cannot be killed. God is not a man. The whole thing is a cruel hoax. And cruel hoaxes are not good. I've tore in 5 volumes of Twistianity, absolutely destroyed all credibility of the Christian religion. And I would encourage you to read it. It's all free at yadayah.com, 5 volumes of Twistianity. You can't make it through the first 3 chapters of volume 1 and maintain yourself in faith of Christianity. You'll know that it is rubbish. You'll know how hideous that lie is. It's easy to disprove. You don't have to go any further than what they wrote. What they wrote was untrue. Christian New Testament is false from beginning to end, and it's exceedingly easy to disprove. There was no Jesus. It's all thievery. It's all the product of identity theft, perversions, corruptions, and twisting all manner of lies. Weaving a series of lies together such that one lie supports the other, and pretty soon people are beguiled.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my friend, I think that's go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you guys are going to be able to eat this week with your wife being out of town. Are you guys getting fed there? I mean, is somebody taking care of you?
Yeah. We're 0 for 2. My wife hired a wife of a dear friend of ours, and she is one of the best chefs on the island, and so she is normally here to help us a couple of days a week with food. But she's treating or dealing with her mother and her sister right now stateside. My wife is a marvelous chef in her own right, and she's stateside. Perry works at it. So and Perry's pretty good in the kitchen. Even Leia will allow him to in her kitchen. So that says something about Perry.
That says something.
Perry fed us a lovely breakfast this morning, and so
Good deal.
yeah. So I'm certain that we won't be starving. Rich and I can make our specialty, which is we go out to restaurants. Yeah, we do pickup sometimes, so we don't always go out to restaurants. Sometimes we just do pickup. We're actually a 2 meal a day group here. Don't look like it, but I'm supposed to play a very heavy set role, so I'm the bull, and it would be inappropriate for you. Never ever saw a successful bull that was skinny, right?
Right.
So I figured out you're a bull. Got to fatten you up. But
Fatten you up. Yeah.
that's the best excuse I have for it anyway. The reality is that I used to exercise an hour every day, and then once I got laid on about the 50th title and saying, "Oh, by its way, it's your responsibility. Don't screw this one up, kid." I get up at long before the sun rises, and I go into my office and I translate and I think and I write and I do it. If I'm not doing this vlog, that's what I'm doing. And even this weekend, it was from before 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night every day. And so there's not a lot of time in there for exercise. And so that's part of it. But we are a 2 meal a day clan here. And we got, those 2 loaves of bread that we showed for the Shabua show.
Right.
Those happen to be sourdough because, of course, yeasted bread is just fine for Shabua. And something I didn't know, but that yeast is almost always has a little sour nature to it. So that sourdough was around a long, long time. And so that's my favorite flavor in bread happens to be sourdough. And I know that once is to eat yeasted bread so that when we celebrate Chag Matzah, that it's special because there is no yeast in the bread during that time. It wouldn't be special if we didn't eat yeasted bread the rest of the year. So we did have the 2 loaves of bread, and I'm sure that wasn't good for the waste, but boy, it tasted good.
Right. We toasted some of ours over the campfire, and Mom had some dips and some garlic butters and stuff. So we made good use of our 2 loaves.
Yeah, your mom came to visit, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Your mom made a lovely post too in the chat feature on Yada Ya.
She did. She wanted to
of her cute
contribute and tell her story.
Yeah, yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, I read that. Yep. So thank you, Mom. You did good. All right, my friend. Well, we'll maybe do another show today. We had a long one here. We'll see. At least we'll see if we can get our the 3 new books, 1,500 pages presented, so that folks can read. I think I've distributed them to like 15 different people on the distribution list, and love to get some more copy edits on them, and love to get all the rest of the superscripts put in. But I think they are ready to share, and we'll see if we can share them in the unpublicized part of the site, and we'll see what Joe can do with them under those circumstances. So thank you for being part of this. I enjoyed our chat on, boy, now we know that we are in the time of trouble, and that Trump just delivered betrayal gift wrapped. Because, and we should close with this, for him to mandate Abraham Accords with the likes of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, Egypt. The only way he can do that is to serve up the heart of Israel on a silver platter. And that is a Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel. And that will make Israel indefensible, which is what the prophets have said, which is the worst entree into the time of trouble. Israel is invaded and cannot defend itself, and it's invaded from the inside. And so this is betrayal wrapped as a present. Thank you.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.